I'm glad your boy went with the eye black, baby, because we just witnessed a war. Huddle up.
You don't want none! You don't want none!
Ready, break. What's going on, Tar Heel Nation? It is your favorite North Carolinian, Russ, the Tar Heel. And in this huddle, baby, we're going to talk about the 19-17 absolute stinking battle out in Minneapolis, where my stinking Tar Heels started the season off 1-0 by taking it to the Gophers. Kinda, sort of, man. It was a stinking war, bro. A stinking war. And it was not always pretty. Matter of fact, it wasn't pretty at all. Matter of fact, there was almost nothing pretty about that stinking football game. But everything that wasn't pretty about that football game simultaneously made it so stinking beautiful, because it's been a long time since the North Carolina Tar Heels on the road won a game like that. People start talking about Big Ten football is tough. North Carolina's soft. And we went to their stinking house and gritted out a 19-17 win. And it was ugly as all get out, bro. Not even going to stinking dispute that. But the fact that this football team went in there and won that stinking football game, hey, man, kudos. Tip the cap to them, man. And I think it shows a ton of growth for us to be able to stinking win that kind of football game. I'm not going to stinking take that lightly. So anybody that wants to joke about the offensive prowess or, what have you, excuse me, I'm losing my stinking voice. Hey, man, go ahead, bro. I'm going to take it straight on the chin, bro. I'm going to take it straight on the chin. And you know what? If we win every single game this year, 19-17, I'll stinking take it, bro. So, kind of breaking down, man. Let's break down everything that happened. First and foremost, though, before we start getting into the nitty-gritty of this thing, man, shout out to stinking Max Johnson. Wasn't a pretty football game. I think he finished 12 for 19, 71 yards and an interception, but he did have a rushing touchdown. There was calls to remove him from the game because the offense just wasn't able to really move the football down the field. And, unfortunately, it looks like he had a pretty bad injury, man. So I hated seeing his family out there like that. I hated seeing the look on his face. So prayers to you, Max, man. I appreciate you stinking battling, bro. You're a Tar Heel. And, we appreciate what you've done for us, man. And we'll continue to pray for you and your healing. And hopefully you can get back out there soon, man. On the other side of that, after we had to watch Max come off the field, Connor took the stinking reins. And, my personal opinion is it made me a little worried with the offense. And as bad as it seemed like the offense was humming when Max was in the game, it didn't seem like there was too much more, if any, urgency or offensive production, if you will, with Connor in the game. And it almost seemed like they were just scared to let him throw the football. I mean, the game plan was almost like, he can't throw the football, which I don't believe that that's true. I mean, we watched him kind of slinging in the bowl game. So I thought it was really interesting, the play calling in that football game against Minnesota. Now, kind of breaking this thing down, once again, it was ugly. 0-0 after the stinking first. 7-0 Carolina midway through the second, before Max goes off his back foot, throws a deep pass to Bryson Nesbitt, which I think one-on-one, all ACC caliber tight end, you got to make that play, but it was a little behind him. Poor tackling down the sideline, sets up Minnesota for a short field. They end up scoring. Carolina goes 3-and-out, if I'm not mistaken, on the next stinking drive. Minnesota scores. So they take a 14-7 lead into the half. And I think Max had 10 passing yards. I think he was like 2 for 9 or something like that. It was terrible. Just absolutely terrible. I think Big O had 55 yards on 15 carries, something like that. So he's, getting a heavy dosage 3.5, 4 yards a pop, just earning everything that he stinking got. And we had a crossroads at the halftime, man. I mean, I told everybody, hey, look, you know, the game's not stinking over. The game's not over, man. Hopefully Matt goes in there and he proves why he's a Hall of Famer. He rallies the troops. Hey, man, we're still in this thing. We all thought that we were going to see Connor come out the stinking tunnel. We didn't. Max came out, led an 8-minute drive. First drive of the stinking half. 8 minutes off the clock for 3 points. Cut the lead to 14-10. Carolina's defense, 3 and out. Did their stinking job. Max comes back down. 5-minute drive, 3 points. Cuts the lead to 14-13. And I can't say enough about stinking Noah Burnette, man. I mean, that guy had stinking ice in his veins. And if it wasn't for the workload that stinking Omarion had, because I just got to give that guy a stinking love, man. He had 35 touches, it seemed like. You know, he earned all 130, 140, 150 yards that he had through the air and stinking running the football. And he's going to need an ice bath after this. And just can't say enough about the toughness and the grit of Omarion Hampton, bro. I'm really interested to see how many of his yards were after stinking contact, bro, because he earned everything tonight. So then Minnesota goes 63 yards down the stinking field. 10 plays, 5 minutes and 25 seconds. I'm sorry, I'm looking down. I'm looking at my notes. I'm tired. 17-16 Minnesota. Carolina goes back down the field. Noah Burnette, 6 plays, 48 yards. Minute and 56, 19-17 Carolina. And then, you know, we all stinking obviously witnessed, I think it's Kessick, wide right from 47, bro. And I had already prepared myself for utter defeat. And when I saw that ball off the foot, bro, curving at that right stinking goalpost, dude, and it went wide right, man, I about stinking lost it, bro, because it's been such a long time since this football program can say that it gritted out a stinking win, an ugly win, a win that a lot of people are going to try to discredit, man. A lot of people are going to try to discredit. And you know what? I had a stinking blast, obviously, because of the outcome. That's probably the most fun that I've had in a while. And shout out to the 150, I think, at one point that we had in the stinking chat. Hey, man. And I think consistently we were like 75, 80, 90, right around 100 people in that second half, man. So, hey, I love you guys, man. I appreciate you guys stinking hanging out, dude. And it means the world to me. And then all the financial support, man. You guys were stinking awesome, dude. That was by far one of the best stinking live streams that we had, man. Just had a stinking blast. And what a way to start the season 1-0. So Max finishes, good into some personal stats. Max finishes 12 for 19, 71 yards, a pick and a rushing touchdown. Brosmer on the other half, he finishes 13 for 21, 166 yards. Omarion Hampton had 30 carries for 129 yards. Major on the other side had 20 carries for 73 yards. J.J. Jones, 3 receptions for 52 yards. He had a couple of big drops in this game, but that one that Connor floated over the backer's head when he drew him in on that RPO, that's what set up Noah Burnett's game-winning field goal, and it was a huge stinking play. Huge play. Big play by Connor, big play call by Chip Lindsey, and fortunately JJ did not drop that one. And then Daniel Jackson on the other side of the football other side of the sideline had 4 receptions for 55 yards. Total team stats. It's crazy, bro. North Carolina offense, man. I felt like North Carolina back in 2017, 2018. UNC actually won the total offense battle with 252 yards of total offense. Minnesota had 244. Both teams had a turnover, and then Carolina in the second half, because they basically owned the third quarter, they came back and they won the time of possession battle, 30 minutes and 31 seconds to 29 minutes and 29 seconds. And that was, like I said, they largely in part dominated the stinking second half passing. The University of North Carolina had 105 passing yards against this Minnesota Gophers team. Minnesota had a $166, And then Carolina had 147 rushing yards to Minnesota's 78, which is kind of surprising. But that's going to be taken into consideration, obviously, the TFLs and the sacks. So, getting into the positives of this game. Or I'll tell you what, we'll do this on the flip side, man. We'll end with a positive, okay? Because we won this stinking football game. Let's start with the stinking negatives. The negatives. The offense, like was aforementioned, exhibited almost zero stinking pass game. Zero stinking passing game. 105 games, and rarely, if at all, did we throw the ball down the field. So either that's a quarterback issue, which I think that we kind of saw, we observed that, or, surprisingly enough, because we've been hearing how deep the wide receiver room is and how great the tight end room is, it's one of those, and 105 yards, man. Omarion Hampton is going to be great. But even he, when he's got 8-9 guys in the box, man, we have got to develop some kind of passing game. And so that worries me. And if we weren't playing the two teams that we're playing in the next 2 weeks, it would worry me even more. It's something that we have got to stink and work on and fix, because a $105, dude, is real bad, and that's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for Omarion to get 35, 40 touches a game. We're going to wear his butt out in the tail end of the season, and we can't do that, man. We can't do that. Another negative, the pass protection. All we heard, man, and this is just keeping it a buck, all we heard from camp is Howard Sampson is an NFL guy. There was a couple of whispers about possibly Travion Green's ability to pass protect on the edge. And I really didn't notice it too much in the second half, and I think that's just because of the play calling. There was a lot more RPOs, and there wasn't really any drop-back passes necessarily that weren't quick from Connor. But let me tell you something, man. In that first half, I watched Howard Sampson get abused multiple times. And I was never an offensive lineman. Couldn't even stink and tell you how to be an offensive line coach or, anything of that nature. But it doesn't take a rocket science to look at what you're seeing and know that, hey, that's not very good. That's just not very good. And it seemed like even from, a novice's point of view, that I was very surprised that we had heard all the positive things that we heard through camp with his apparent, future NFL potential. Maybe he's got the size for the position, but that's not what I witnessed today. Now, hopefully he can grow. Hopefully things will get better. But that pass protection was atrocious. It was real bad at pivotal times in the game, especially in the first part. And, Max he didn't have a ton of time. There was a couple times where he held the football, but he didn't have a ton of time, and it's because they were coming on the stinking corners and, just didn't look good at the tackle position. So I wonder, how that grades out. Be interested to look at their PFF and see if Jakaya doesn't stink and slide in there. Maybe you get a little bit more burn. And I'm going to have to go back and look at how the offensive lines think and perform. And then the last one, bro, and this is just a reoccurring theme, man. Good night, the clock management. The clock management, man. Second half, there's 2 minutes left. Minnesota, instead of calling timeouts, you let Minnesota milk the clock. They end up scoring, and as opposed, they're going to score. It's like second and goal from like the 1 or 2. They punch it in, and we're able to take another 45, 50 seconds off the clock. And so then Carolina gets the football with like 45, 50 seconds left. They get I think a negative play, either first, second down, and they're behind the chains, and then they decide to call a timeout. It's just like, what in the world, man? When are we going to fix this? I'm so surprised at the poor clock management, how it's this continuing thing. It's a continuing thing. And even at the end of the football game, 3rd and 5, you got to think that Mac Brown has got some say in what kind of play is being called. They call an RPO with Connor that goes absolutely nowhere. Don't even give him a chance to stick and throw the ball to stink and get, the first down so that we can milk this clock even more. And they settle for a field goal, which I'm fine with the field goal after you stink and move the chains and you milk that stinking clock. And so then you give Minnesota a $150 and you put it on your defense's back, which they inevitably held the line. It wasn't always pretty, that last possession. But I just thought that we could have done so much better. And that's not even retroactively speaking. That's just like in game. Why are we not calling timeouts? Why are we not trying to get to the stinking stick so that we can keep the football out of their stinking hand? I thought the clock management, once again, was just really, really stinking poor, man. And that is something that I can't even say we need to fix it, because it has been an issue since Coach Brown returned. It just has, man, and it's reared its ugly head, and I think it's just it's one of those things that, I'm sure there are other coaches that do it, but it's just exacerbated because he's our coach, and, it's widely known that we have clock management issues. So all the negatives, bro, that's the negatives, bro. The positives, the North Carolina defense allowed 3 stinking points in the second half. That's stinking fantastic, bro. I don't care who you're playing. I don't care if you're playing stinking Pine Forest High School in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Listen, you hold a team to 3 points in the stinking second half. The defense did exactly what they were supposed to do. And I think what we witnessed right there, even though this Minnesota team is not necessarily some barn burner, I don't think they got athletes all over the place. It's not an explosive offense. But that's what you do against stinking teams when you're a good defense. I'm not yet saying that they're a good defense, but they did what they needed to do. They held that defense to 3 points, which allowed North Carolina, who was struggling on offense, to generate just enough to win the football game. And that's what's important. You did what you needed to do to win this football game, and we'll worry about the next football game next stinking week. The second thing, the defense, man, once again, Jeff Collins effect, multiple 3-and-outs. It's been a long time since we had a defense that had multiple 3-and-outs. Coming in the second half, down 14-7, 3-and-out. Carolina goes down, scores 14-10. What do? Next possession, Carolina, 3-and-out. Allows Carolina to go back down there, get a field goal. We're inching our way back in the game in large part because of the defense. So that is a stinking positive. I loved it. Anytime we give up 3 points in a stinking half, man, all stinking day. And you know what? Kudos to you. Tip the hat to Jeff Collins, man. You had a terrific game plan. And you stopped the run. 78 yards when that's what you know that they're. And that surprises me, because I felt like they rushed for more than that. But when you kind of look back on it, I guess maybe they didn't, especially with those sacks and TFLs, man. And then the third positive thing from the defense, man, 5 sacks, 7 TFLs, and they allowed less than 250 yards of offense and 78 yards rushing, man. I'll take that stinking all day. We talked about this might be a year where we have to lean on the stinking defense. And to a certain extent, I think that's what we did. We were able to lean on the defense. They performed very well. Less than 250 yards of offense. And if they can continue to do something similar to that, despite how bad the offense may be, we should be competitive in each of the games that are coming up. And then I got to give a stinking asterisk, man. It probably could be number 1, Noah Burnette. Dude was stinking ice cold, man. 4 for 4 on field goals, long for 52. I think he hit a 47-yarder to 47-yard go-ahead, if I'm not mistaken. Noah Burnette was the stinking man. I personally, between, the bell cow, Omarion Hampton, because he was just a stinking workhorse, I kind of want to give him the nod because he's what got us into field goal range in large part. But if it's not Big O, man, you have got to stinking give it to stinking Noah Burnette. Noah Burnette had a stinking ball game, 4 for 4. You can't ask for anything better than that. And to knock that one down with less than 2 minutes to put Carolina ahead was big time, son. It was stinking big time. So Carolina gets a 19-17 hard-fought victory. And like I said, man, they can say what they want to say. They can say what they want to say, baby. But at the end of the day, the Heels are 1-0, undefeated. Undefeated. You know what? We'll enjoy this stinking victory, and we'll worry about next week, tomorrow. That's what we'll do. We'll worry about it tomorrow, man. So once again, dude, I cannot thank you guys enough for hanging out, bro. We had a stinking blast, son. Gosh, we had a blast, man. If I could do it all over again, I'd stinking do it all over again. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the stinking channel, man. And we're going to have fun for the rest of the season, bro. So I love you guys, and I appreciate everything that you guys do. And we'll catch you on the next one, Tar Heel Nation.
I'm a Tar Heel, boy, I'm a Tar